say probably, I don't know, 8 years old, maybe 7 years old. I couldn't say that I would have seen much of a difference, but I would say looking back, probably from 8 or 9 years old forward, I could see differences in churches. On the outset, I do want to say, because in this, I want to give credit where credit's due, without sacrificing truth. To give credit where credit's due, the churches that I grew up in, I have very fond memories as far as friends, youth group, things like that. I was always, I paid a lot of attention to preachers, to pastors. My dad's actually a minister, and oddly enough, I felt a call to minister myself a few years ago, and so now I'm a preacher. I'm ordained, have a church plant, but so I don't know. I guess that was there all the time, but I did notice preachers, pastors, and differences. To go over the positives, I do want to start with that, because I know, as sure as I'm sitting here, John, as you're probably, people hear what they want to hear, and, people will take this and say, well, he bashed this or bashed that, or I can't believe he said this or whatever. And so I just want to put a nail in that right away and say that on the outset, as far as dealing, from my perspective, now I can't speak for everyone, and rumors run wild no matter what kind of church it is. But from my perspective, I would say the pastors that I was most aware of familiar with would have been three while I was a child, and I believe all three of them were very good men. Two of them have passed away, and I actually miss them dearly. One of them, all of them, I would say, were really godly men to their own right for what they knew as far as the Bible. Now that's what I would say. That's what it came across as. Everyone. We all know that some people are different people when no one's looking. And I've heard other stories of people that have left the message, and I was aware of some stories while I was in the message. I mean, there's there's a bad apple on every tree. And so, one, or I don't know, all of those pastors, maybe someone had bad associations with them, so to speak. But as from my perspective, I don't really have any bad or negative memories with that.
So in the churches, were there cases where the doctrines were different?
The strictness varied from church to church. Because as everyone knows in the message, there's not really like a doctrinal statement per se. There would have been no creeds or confessions, because William Branham was against that, from my understanding. That's a mark of the denominations and all of that. And so, without a statement of belief or creed or confession, or even not really even a systematic theology of any kind, I mean, every church can vary. Yeah. I didn't even fully realize until I listened to, actually, it was Jeff Jenkins' message when he first left the Message church that he pastored. I guess that's been 10 years ago now, but I didn't realize until I heard him say that every Message pastor almost had a different version of the seven seals. And I'd gone my whole life, and I just thought, okay, well, yeah, the seven seals, yeah, Brandon preached them, yeah, okay, yeah. And then I heard him say that, I was like, wait a minute, what? how can everyone have their own version, but it not be what? Well, wouldn't they have his version? And then if if he's a prophet of God and all of this, then if God is speaking through him, then wouldn't you want to have his version? And I don't know, for some reason I've always remembered that. That just kind of stuck out to me. I was like, what? So, in light of that, I don't know. And when it came to that, maybe they all had the pastors that I grew up under, maybe they all had their own version of the seals.
I don't know if you remember these books, but there were these books when I was growing up called Choose Your Own Adventure. And, you could read it and then you'd have different choices. The message I've come to learn was just a choose your own adventure religion. You go to one church and they're going to have a different message than if you go to the other church. And like you said, for people who are never in this thing, it would be hard to understand this, but when you're talking about something as significant as William Branham's quote-unquote revelation of the seven seals, that is, without this, there is no message. So the fact that every single minister, you get two of them in a room, and they've got two different versions of what that meant. Get four, you've got four versions. The fact that there is no consistency tells you that it was a choose your own adventure message.
Yeah, and honestly, that right there, I just have to say, God is not the author of confusion. That there's just, I have to throw this in there. Looking back on it, like what you just said right there, John, there's so much that violates the sovereignty of God. And then if everyone puts their own twist and version and manipulation on it, then that's really an ideology of your own making, which incidentally, I don't think a lot of people quite realize idol, you're really sort of forming your own false god, if you will, at that point. Of course, now people's going to hear that. Why? What? We don't have, but no, if you actually think about it and you take someone's interpretation of the Word of God, and then everyone then has their own interpretation on top of that, and I know there's some fine lines there, but at the end of the day, if everyone has their own different version, and like you say, you can sort of pick your favorite or whatever there. It's no different than being in a foreign country where they sell idols